Be Me, 36, founder and CEO of high-performance tech accelerator, Apex Logic. 60 employees, mostly developers, data scientists, and creative leads, obsessed with biohacking and human optimization. Followed a strict, quantified self-lifestyle for 10 years. Woke up at 3:45 a.m. for cryotherapy. Consumed only nutrient-dense gray sludge for meals to avoid decision fatigue. Tracked every biomarker from cortisol to heart rate variability. Believed the human body was legacy hardware that needed aggressive firmware updates. Viewed sleep as a necessary evil to be minimized. Viewed food as fuel, not pleasure. Viewed emotions as neurochemical inefficiencies. Single by choice because partners disrupted my circadian rhythm and sleep hygiene. Known in the industry as a visionary for my relentless energy. Believed my role as CEO included upgrading my employees' biological operating systems. Not just managing their work, but optimizing their existence. Started noticing inefficiencies in the office culture. Saw employees eating sandwiches for lunch. Saw them drinking sugary coffees. Saw them sitting in chairs for hours without varying posture. Saw them leaving at 5 p.m. to relax, which I viewed as wasting potential. Senior developer named Marcus mentioned during a stand-up he was tired because he stayed up watching a movie with his wife. I commented that screen time before bed disrupts melatonin production and destroys REM cycles. Asked if he tracked his deep sleep percentages. Marcus looked confused, said he just liked the movie Dune. I explained that liking the movie was irrelevant if it cost him 15% cognitive decline the next day, that his tiredness was a choice he made by prioritizing entertainment over recovery. Marcus laughed nervously, but put away his coffee. 2 days later, caught creative director Elena eating a pasta salad. I sat down, uninvited. Explained that the glycemic index of that pasta was causing an insulin spike that would result in a 2 p.m. crash. Told her she was literally poisoning her afternoon productivity. Suggested she switch to a ketogenic diet to maintain a steady state of mental clarity. Elena said she loved Italian food, and it made her happy. I said happiness, derived from glucose, was a chemical addiction, not true fulfillment. That she was a slave to her blood sugar swings. Elena stopped eating and threw the rest of the salad away, looking guilty. Week later, operations manager named David mentioned he was stressed about a deadline. I asked him what his resting heart rate was. He didn't know. I told him that stress was just an unchecked physiological response he could control with breathwork and cold exposure. Offered to buy him a smart ring to track his failure to regulate his nervous system. Said that feeling stressed was a sign of biological weakness, not workload. David looked ashamed, said he would try to breathe more. I said trying wasn't enough. He needed to measure it. Started holding optimization workshops during lunch hours. Not mandatory, but strongly encouraged for career advancement. Preached that the 8-hour sleep myth was for average people, not high performers. Explained that leisure time was often just dopamine scrolling that rotted the brain. Argued that family obligations were often distractions from self-actualization. Started analyzing employees' lunches and commenting on their nutrient density. Told the head of sales, Greg, that his client dinners with alcohol were destroying his liver and cognitive edge. Greg said building relationships required social drinking. I said he was using social norms as a crutch for substance abuse. That a truly optimized human could close a deal with water and alpha waves. Greg stopped drinking at client dinners. Sales numbers dipped slightly. Greg looked miserable, but I told him it was just the detox phase. 3 months into my crusade, the office vibe shifted. No one ate together anymore. Everyone ate at their desks, hiding their food. The coffee machine gathered dust. I replaced it with a mushroom nootropic dispenser that tasted like dirt but boosted acetylcholine. Employees drank it with grimaces. I felt proud. I was saving them from themselves. Started noticing a pattern of employees asking for advice on fatigue. Marcus came to my office, looking thin. Said he had cut out all carbs and blue light after 6 p.m. as I suggested, but he felt empty and couldn't focus on code. I told him his body was just becoming fat adapted, that the emptiness was actually clarity he wasn't used to. Suggested he start intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast and lunch. Marcus nodded slowly. eyes sunken, said he would try the 20-hour fast window. Elena came to me a week later. She had switched to a standing desk and started taking ice showers. Said she was shivering constantly and her creative spark was gone. I told her that creativity was often just chaotic brain noise, that the cold was sharpening her survival instincts. Said she needed to push through the discomfort to reach the flow state. Elena looked like she was about to cry, but thanked me for the perspective. David, the ops manager, started wearing blue light blocking goggles all day. Even in meetings, he looked like a cyborg. Said he was tracking his HRV and it was always low. I told him it was because he was still emotionally attached to outcomes, that he needed to practice stoic detachment. David stopped smiling or reacting to good news. Said he was regulating his dopamine. 6 months in, productivity metrics were weird. Output was steady, but innovation was zero. The code was clean but uninspired. The designs were functional but soulless. I told myself this was the efficiency of a machine, that we had eliminated the messy human variable. Then the personal lives started crumbling. Marcus asked for a private meeting, confessed his wife was angry because he wouldn't eat dinner with the family anymore, said she missed their movie nights. I asked if he missed the brain fog. He said no, but he missed his wife. I told him that high performance requires sacrifice, that if his wife didn't support his journey to excellence, maybe she was an anchor dragging him down, that average people resent those who try to ascend. Marcus looked torn, said I made sense, that he felt sharper when he fasted, even if he felt cold and lonely. I gave him a book on the solitude of the alpha intellect. 2 weeks later, Marcus moved into a sterile apartment downtown, said he needed a controlled environment to sleep in pitch blackness at 65 degrees, said his wife wouldn't stop turning on lights. I told him he made the logical choice. Elena stopped wearing makeup or colorful clothes, said they were distractions/inefficiencies. She broke up with her boyfriend because he wanted to go to brunch on Sundays. I had told her brunch was the highest density of toxic nutrients and social waste. She said she felt purified. She looked like a ghost. Greg, the sales guy, lost 30 pounds. He stopped laughing at jokes, said humor was an unnecessary expenditure of energy. His clients stopped calling him back. He told me his clients were low vibration and we didn't need their money. I realized he was parroting my words but with zero charisma. Started feeling a twinge of concern. Noticed the office was silent. No chatter, no music, just the hum of servers and the sound of people chewing raw almonds. But the metrics were optimized. People were at their desks, heart rates were low, glucose was stable. Then the breakdown began. Month 8. We had a major product launch coming up. Project Ether required intense focus. I told the team to switch to polyphasic sleep, 20-minute naps every 4 hours. Number-long sleep. Explained it would unlock 6 extra hours of productivity per day. Most agreed because they were too terrifyingly optimized to argue. Day 3 of polyphasic sleep. David started hallucinating during a strategy meeting, pointed at the whiteboard and screamed that the numbers were bleeding. I told him to take a cold shower. He collapsed in the hallway. Seizure. Ambulance came. Paramedics asked about his diet and sleep. I tried to explain he was in a transition phase. Medic looked at me like I was insane, said David was severely dehydrated and malnourished. David was hospitalized for exhaustion. Week later, Elena was found crying under her standing desk. She couldn't remember her own name, said the silence was too loud. I tried to guide her through a breathing exercise. She screamed at me to stop breathing. She had a nervous breakdown, taken away by her parents, who came to the office. Her father threatened to sue me, said I ran a cult, not a company. I felt defensive. Cults are irrational. I was hyper-rational. Marcus was the last one standing. He looked like a skeleton, eyes wide, unblinking. He had written 10,000 lines of code in 3 days. I checked the code. It was gibberish, just the same function repeated over and over again. Void optimize, optimize, infinite recursion. I asked Marcus what this was. He smiled a terrifying, toothy smile. Said he had optimized the code to its final form. It did nothing. perfectly. Zero latency because zero operation. I realized Marcus had snapped. He was catatonic, had to call his estranged wife to pick him up. She looked at me with pure hatred. Said he used to be happy fat guy who loved pizza. Now he was a broken robot. I sat in my empty office. 40% of staff on medical leave. Launch cancelled. Investors calling. I drank my mushroom sludge. It tasted like ash. Started wondering if optimization had a limit. Posted on biohacking forums asking for advice on employee burnout during protocol implementation. Responses were mixed. Some said, weak hardware cannot run high-end software. Said I should fire them and hire Navy SEALs. Others said, you forgot the recovery variable. One user wrote, humans aren't machines. Efficiency isn't the goal of life. Survival is. Felt a crack in my worldview. 10 months after starting the regime, board of directors called an emergency meeting. They had received complaints from HR, who had quit weeks ago, accusations of creating a hostile work environment, medical coercion, psychological abuse. CEO of the board was an old school guy, ate steak, smoked cigars, looked happy. He asked me why my staff looked like concentration camp victims. I started explaining cortisol levels and autophagy. He told me to shut the fuck up. Said productivity had tanked because everyone was insane. Mandated I step down as CEO or face a massive lawsuit. I was removed from operational control. Kept my shares, but lost my platform. Spent the next year in isolation. Still waking up at 3:45 a.m. Still eating sludge, but it felt pointless without a tribe to lead. Started seeing a therapist who specialized in orthorexia and control issues. Therapist asked me why I hated my own humanity, why I treated my body like an enemy to be conquered. I didn't have an answer. Realized I was lonely, cold and lonely, just like Marcus. Decided to reach out to Marcus a year later. Met him at a park. He had gained weight. Eating a sandwich. Looked terrified when he saw me. I apologized. Said I was wrong. Asked how he was. He said it took him 6 months to be able to sleep for more than 2 hours at a time. Said he still panicked if he saw blue light glasses, but he was back with his wife. They watched movies. He was coding again for a boring bank. Said he wasn't optimized anymore, but he was alive. He didn't forgive me, just pitied me. Left me sitting on the bench. I watched a squirrel eat a nut. The squirrel wasn't counting calories, it just ate. I went to a bakery. Bought a croissant, ate it, felt the sugar hit my blood, felt the toxins, felt the inefficiency, but for the first time in 10 years, felt something warm. Realized my advice had stripped the joy out of 60 people's lives. I had pathologized being human, treated laughter as noise, treated rest as failure, treated food as math. 2 years later, wrote a book titled The Efficiency Trap. Detailed how I destroyed a promising company by trying to debug human nature. Admitted that biological variation is a feature, not a bug. That average isn't a dirty word. That pizza with friends has a biological value that HRV monitors can't detect. Connection releases oxytocin. Oxytocin reduces stress better than ice baths. Book sold well to recovering tech bros. Received emails from managers who had done the same thing. One guy banned chairs in his office. Another mandated urine testing for ketones. We were a legion of broken leaders projecting our dysmorphia onto our teams. 3 years later, ran into Elena at a gallery opening. She was wearing bright colors, laughing loud, drinking wine. I stood in the corner, afraid to approach. She saw me, stopped laughing, walked over. I braced for a slap. She said, "You know you saved me." I was confused. She said, "I hit rock bottom so hard with your protocol that I realized I hated tech. I quit coding. I started painting again. Now I'm here. I'm broke, but I'm not cold anymore." She walked away. I realized unintended consequences work both ways. But mostly, I just broke people. Greg never recovered his career, moved to a farm, disappeared from LinkedIn. David, the ops manager, sued the company and won. Now runs a blog about slow living. I still biohack, but quietly. I don't preach. I sleep 7 hours now, sometimes 8. I bought a dog. Dogs sleep 14 hours a day. Dogs are happy. Maybe the dog is more optimized than me. Started consulting for startups on human-centric leadership. Basically telling 25-year-old founders to let their employees eat lunch, to let them have weekends, to let them be suboptimal, because a suboptimal human is better than a perfect machine that doesn't work. 5 years post-collapse. Giving a talk at a conference. Title: Why You Should Eat the Cake. Audience is full of guys with Oura rings and continuous glucose monitors. I tell them the story of Marcus, the infinite recursion code. Void optimize, optimize. The room goes silent. They recognize themselves. I tell them that the endpoint of total optimization is death, because a corpse has zero stress, zero caloric burn, zero error. Life is error. Life is mess. I finish the talk. No standing ovation, just uncomfortable silence. Good. That means it worked. Went to the hotel bar. Ordered a beer. Not low carb, just a beer. Drank it. Watched the game on TV. Wasted 2 hours. It was glorious. 7 years later. Company is long gone. Bought for parts. My legacy is a cautionary tale in MBA programs. The Icarus of biohacking. I'm okay with that. I run a small gardening business now. Plants don't like to be rushed. You can't hack a tomato. It grows when it grows. If you blast it with 24-hour light, it withers. Learned more from tomatoes than I did from 10 years of reading white papers. Still single, but dating. Met a woman who loves baking. She makes sourdough. Old me would have lectured her on gluten-inflammatory markers. New me eats the bread. Says it tastes good, because it does. And that's enough. That's the only metric that matters. Does it taste good? Is the life tasting good? For 60 people, I made life taste like ash for a year. Trying to balance the ledger now, one loaf of bread at a time. End of log.